Lions riding high at 8-1. Tony, are you surviving in Jacksonville?
I'm barely surviving, man. We 2-8, but hey, we live to see another day, and we'll be up there this weekend.
Lions and Jags Thursday crossover coming up.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, welcome in everybody on a Thursday edition. Locked On Lions, Matt Derry. Locked On Jaguars, T. Wig, Tony Wiggins with you. 8-1 Lions, 2-8 Jags coming up on Sunday at Ford Field. Great to do the Thursday crossover with Tony and talk about this matchup, which is plenty of injuries, plenty of intrigue. And as always, our Thursday crossover is brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the app and use code LOCKEDONNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Tone, great to see you. It's been forever, it seems like. How are you holding up? Because this Jaguar season is just off the rails.
Yeah, well, it's great to see you too, man. You don't know this, but I see you at least once a week on Locked On NFL when I use your clips because you guys are in the news and you're all big time right now. So I always got to make sure that I talk about the teams that are making the news. And so the listeners of Locked On NFL know me and Matt Derry get together about once a week, but we actually don't. So I'm surviving, man. You know how this goes. When the team wins, it's good for us. When the team is like right in the middle, it's okay. And when the team is bad, well, it's good for us. So, I mean, that's kind of the way it works. It's good when they're either really good or when they're really bad, the podcasts go through the roof. So I guess that's a good thing. But the fans don't think so. It's been really bad, and I think it's going to start over here pretty soon.
Yeah, give us the storylines. Let's start with Trevor Lawrence. Obviously not going to play. Mac Jones played for him last week too. I guess it's just rubbing salt in a wound at this point, but where did this thing all go wrong? And then let's get an update on Trevor too.
It went wrong from the beginning. They burnt the onions when they first started cooking this thing up, and then they just covered it up and masked it by just adding stuff to it. And they were able to come back from a 2-7 start in year one, and they made the playoffs because they got really, really hot, which is kind of what Doug does. He did that in Philadelphia when they made their little bit of a run. Then in year two, they started off hot. In fact, they won like 16 out of 21 games. It was 16-5 over the end of year one, which is 2022, and the beginning of year two. And since then, they're like 2-13, So this thing has really turned around and gone the other way. At the core of it, though, there's a few things. One, Trent Baalke was the wrong GM, and then he chose the wrong coach because it seems like that's the only person that really wanted to work with him and take this job with him as the head coach. Eventually, what happened is their lack of team building kind of took over, their lack of structure around Trevor Lawrence. They haven't done what other good teams have done and they've made some investments on the offensive line, but they haven't made those real big investments that you make when you're playing the way that they want to play with an alpha quarterback and this team to be that top heavy. It's different from Detroit, where you went out and got a guy that fit into your system, eventually started paying him. They didn't do that. They got the quarterback first and then tried to fix everything around him, and they had to choose between defensive players and playmakers and a guy here and a guy there. And Trent's a guy that drafts for traits as opposed to team building, and it pretty much is the total opposite of what you guys have going on in Detroit.
Travis Etienne's been hurt. Trevor Lawrence has been hurt. How much of it is injuries or how much of it is, look, they're just not very good. And like you said up front, Lawrence has been running for his life most of the year.
The answer is yes. When you say Travis Etienne have injuries had something to do with it, has it been a little bit of team building? Has it been a little bit of disconnect in the messaging from the coaches to the players? Yes, yes, yes. Bad free agent signings? Yes. Horrible timing? Yes. It's like if anything can go wrong, it has go wrong. And that's how you end up 2-8, especially in a year like right now in the NFL where even bad teams are winning games. Like Carolina's won 2 in a row. Teams find out how to win games and how to figure it out. The Jaguars figure out how to lose games. They've lost 6 games by 5 points or less. And all of those games look different. So the bottom line is the common denominator that this team has is if there's a loss to be had, they're going to figure out a way to get it. And then if a team is coming in here or we're going to visit a team that has some problems, we will be there. We'll be their vaccine, their antibiotic. They seem to get well whenever the Jaguars walk into the arena. So It's just something that needs to be rebooted and started over. The funny part is, a few years ago, the Jags had the number 1 pick. Y'all had the number 2 pick. It was Trayvon Walker and Aiden Hutchinson. And trust me, people haven't let him down about that, because Aiden Hutchinson was on his way to being probably the defensive player of the year this year before he got hurt. But let me explain something to you. Trayvon Walker has like 17 sacks in his last 26 games. That kid has not been a bust at all. That kid scored a touchdown this year. He's had multiple games where he's had multiple sacks. I think he leads the team right now with 7.5. And he had 10.5 last year. That's not a bust. He's one of the best run stoppers in the league. It's just that when the team is losing and Aiden is playing well, folks always seem to point back to that as being another mistake that Trent Baalke made. I'm not willing to call him a mistake. I'm not saying he's as good as Aiden Hutchinson. But what I am telling you is Aiden Hutchinson is right where he needs to be, and he fits in. And I doubt if he was in Jacksonville if he's had those same numbers, because he wouldn't have the same success.
Tony Wiggins with us, T. Wig, Locked On Jaguars, Matt Derry, Locked On Lions, Thursday crossover, doing a little bit of a Jacksonville perspective right now, certainly to get us kicked off. You mentioned before about cleaning house and Doug Peterson. I mean, this is a Super Bowl winning coach. This is a guy that when he first got to Jacksonville had success. How much should be on his shoulders as to why this team is 6 games below 500?
Oh, a boatload of it should be on his shoulders. He's in charge of the locker room and the team and communicating. I blame Trent Baalke for everything, because I always believe in going all the way to the core and to the bottom of a problem. But he hasn't helped. Doug hasn't helped. Doug's a nice guy. He's a good person. It's just that I just think as the losses have mounted, so has his patience with the media, and you're starting to see it. He's a little bit chippy, and I get it, and I understand people trying to tell him who needs to be on his staff and who doesn't, and what the problem. You know how the media is, man. You remember Deshaun Watson? I hate to bring him into this. Remember somebody was asking him about a play, and then he goes on and starts talking real footballism and lost the whole room because he was acting that. So sometimes the media asks you to do that type of stuff, right? And Doug just didn't have any patience the other day. And he said, I ain't telling you that because y'all ain't going to figure it out anyway. When what he should have done was what he always does. Give us coach speak and give us nothing. And that's what a lot of them do all the time. But he decided today, he said, not only ain't going to give you nothing, I'm going to give you this little salvo right with me and let you know that you don't know what I know. But the thing is that's a hard position to take when you're 2-8. That's a hard position to take when you lost. You were 8-3 last year and finished 9-8. That's a hard pill to swallow when this old town still thinks that Trevor Lawrence is the prince that was promised. But for some reason, under his leadership, Trevor hasn't been able to get it done. So a lot of controversy. The people are still always going to be Jaguar fans. They're always going to still be Trevor Lawrence fans. So that means somebody has to be blamed for the team not being successful. And the first person is the dude you see all the time, and that's Doug Peterson.
How did Mac Jones look last week? I mean, is this the Mac Jones from the Patriots? I know he threw a couple of good balls. He had the 2 picks. If they take care of the football, maybe they upset the Vikings last week because they were right in that game, right?
Yeah, no, yeah, they were in the game, but they got outgained 400 to like 100 or something. They barely had 200 yards, and Minnesota went up and down the field. It's just that they had their own former number 1 pick that couldn't stop throwing the ball to a team that had only gotten 2 turnovers all year, and that was Jacksonville. Well, they got 3 last week because of Sam Darnold. Now, Mac Jones, he looked really good the preseason until he got a chance to play full time the other day, and he looked terrible. He looked like the guy that Patriot fans were glad to get rid of. So it's like you almost sit here and think that, okay, it wasn't Trevor, because now another guy comes in here and he looks worse. So they're thinking that it's the players. Well, we get that, but it's also the coaches. That's why I say it's everything. What's going on around here has gone on too long. Finger pointing. CYA. That's why if you kill everything, if you just nuke it all and start over, then you won't be worried about whether or not it was this guy. Or, okay, we got rid of Urban, but we still got Trent. Oh, well, we got rid of Dave Caldwell before that, but we kept Trent. No, just flush it all out and start completely over. That is something Shaq Khan has never done, but he needs to do it this offseason.
I hope that new defensive coordinator is renting.
Ryan Nielsen, yeah, he needs to be renting because they're about sick of him too. I'm telling you, it goes bad, man, when it goes bad, and it's all bad right now here in Jacksonville.
I'm more with Tony and me. Lions and Jaguars coming up at Ford Field at 1:00 on Sunday. We'll turn the tables. Tony will talk to me a little bit about the Lions, and we'll get the their situation and what the biggest stories are in Detroit. We'll do that coming up next. But first, Locked On Lions, Locked On Jaguars, brought to you by our friends at Hillsdale College. Time is our most precious commodity, so don't waste it scrolling through the same mind-numbing content for hours and hours on your phone. How can you spend it wisely to improve yourself? It's very, very simple. Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free, that's right, free online courses, including Constitution 101, the meaning and history of the Constitution, Introduction to Free Market Economics, Great American Story, A Land of Hope, Rise and Fall of the Roman Republic, and so much more. All of Hillsdale's courses, and bear in mind, this is going to be great when I tell you this, are self-paced, so you can start whenever, tune in wherever, plus you go deeper with readings, quizzes, discussions, or just enjoy the lectures and do it for free. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost. It's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. Again, once again, hillsdale.edu/lockedon. And the Thursday crossover is always Lions and Jaguars. We got to talk about our friends at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook right now. NFL fans, you can get new customers can get $5, can bet $5, I should say, but get $150 in bonus bets if you win for free. FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. Thursday Night Football, you can do that tonight. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. That's the beauty of what the FanDuel app has been doing lately. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Matt Derry, Tony Wiggins, Lions and Jags. It is the Thursday crossover. T-Wig, how much have you seen of the Lions, and what do you want to know?
I've seen a lot of them. I've been watching them intently ever since they were pretty much sitting there neck and neck with the Jacksonville Jaguars. It was been pretty much a case study for me to watch them because you had them side by side just in 2022 in the offseason, and did they, man. The Jaguars made the playoffs the first year. So this is why you can't worry about who jumps first, because the Jaguars made it and then they didn't. And then all of a sudden that thing flipped around. And now, I think the Lions are the favorite for a whole bunch of people in the NFL.
Made it. Not only did the Jaguars make it, but former Lion Riley Peterson was a hero down there for about a week.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? He was so close to missing that field goal, man, against the Chargers. That thing almost it was like we thought it was going in, but then it was like, oh my God. And everybody was cheering, but he actually almost missed it. Let me ask you something. Watching it closer, is it surreal for you? Because you're a longtime Detroiter, obviously, and they're one of the teams that has never really gotten it. So to be actually watching this isn't the run and shoot. This isn't the Wayne Fonts teams. This is the real deal. You can tell when it is what it is. And I think, it has to feel good being a longtime Detroit fan and a person in the media to actually see it and know that it's the real thing.
Yeah, no question. I mean, I moved here in 96 and they had some decent teams with Wayne around that time. I was around a Bobby Ross playoff team, a Jim Schwartz playoff team, a Jim Caldwell playoff team.
Yeah.
But no, this is completely different. You're right, T. They are playing unbelievable football. Even Sunday night, I know everybody was watching, all your listeners and viewers, Sunday Night Football against the Texans. Look, they had a clunker in the first half, and they probably didn't deserve to win that game. But to come back and to shut out that Texans offense in the second half, come back and win down 19 or down 16, score 19 straight. There's something special going on here. They feel like America's team. They feel like a team of destiny with the way they're playing. They're so likable with Dan Campbell. And despite losing Aiden Hutchinson, who we talked about earlier, they found a way to kind of patch it together. This week, they'll get Zadarius Smith in there. That'll help with the pass rush and certainly setting the edge in the run game. And they've got some unbelievable players on the back end, and Joseph and Branch, probably the best safety combo in the league. They've improved in the secondary, and the offense just cooks. Even though they didn't really have a great game last week, Jared Goff throws 5 interceptions. If a Lions quarterback, and you know this, Tone, is a guy that has been a student of the game, a Lions quarterback throws 5 interceptions. There's just no way.
No.
And it happened.
Anybody.
They won.
Yeah,
So
anybody. I'd say three. Three is like the most unacceptable number for interceptions. And I'm sitting there watching. I'm like, they still might win this game, and it amazes me.
yeah, it is amazing. And golf's been great. I know that the MVP race, the talk maybe will cool a little bit this week with 5 picks and only a 50% completion percentage, but he's managed the game well. When given time, he does his job. The run game's been real good with Montgomery and Gibbs, where I expect the Lions kind of to go to start this game again. Because last week, to the credit of the Texans, especially Jalen Petrie coming up from that safety spot, they really disrupted the run game. So I think Ben Johnson this week is going to want to get back to that. But yeah, it's been an amazing run. They're playing great football.
Do you have to battle against, maybe not now, but when Cincinnati went to the Super Bowl, and I'll bring this up for a reason, it is about player procurement. When Cincinnati went to the Super Bowl and they lost basically because they gave up a sack, as Jamar Chase was wide open, people were saying they should have taken Penei Sewell. And I recall last year in the playoffs, when the ball bounced off of a guy's hand in San Francisco and somebody else caught it, and the defensive backs and guys were dropping the balls, and they said they should have drafted Jamar Chase. It's like you can't be a prisoner of the moment, man. So how do you get past that? Look, Penei Sewell is great. I think Jamar Chase is the dude. I think he's the best receiver in the league, but I also think Penei Sewell is the best offensive lineman in the league right now.
It's a great observation by you. Sewell is special, and it's not just pancaking guys, running out on a toss sweep for Gibbs, and just moving bodies. It's the leadership. It's the fact that he's a captain here and only his 3rd year. He's a special talent and is a tremendous leader for this team. He's the guy they always have the videotape, the camera on for the videos before games, firing up the teammates. He's been awesome. I don't think there's been anybody that has questioned that draft pick. Obviously, you and I went back and forth years ago with the Walker and Hutch thing. That's the thing. Brad Holmes, the general manager, just like you said, Trent Baalke's got to go. Brad Holmes needs a lifetime contract. He and his crew in that front office have done an unbelievable job. I mean, moving up in the 2nd round last year at 47 to get Brian Branch, moving up to get Jamison Williams. This year's draft has not been the best for him so far, but all the guys that they've brought in have just done a fantastic job. They're all Lions. They all buy in, and you got to give Holmes and his crew credit. It's a really good roster, but they play for Campbell. They play for each other. And despite all the mistakes, they haven't made a lot of mistakes this year. The 5 turnovers, they find ways to win. And, you got a rookie kicker out here making 58 and 52 yarders in the span of 5 minutes. That might be that's some team of destiny stuff, Tony. That's for sure.
Well, that is. Now you got to get prepared for this part of it, and you better hope you win before this happens. Your front office and your coaching staff is about to get raided, man. That's what people do.
Yeah.
It is a copycat league. In fact, Ben Johnson is the favorite to have the job here, along with the job in Chicago and probably the one in Dallas. And then if he doesn't get either one of those, Aaron Glenn is the next guy. So do they have a strong enough culture at this point that Lions way, as long as they have Dan Campbell and as long as they have the GM, Brad, do they keep this thing? Are they able to keep this going with that core crew even when they start losing little pieces?
It's a great question. I mean, I think that last year they were prepared for Ben Johnson to go, and I think everybody was stunned that he didn't get the Washington job and that he's not coaching the Commanders right now. Whatever happened, and he was out. Carolina's wanted him 2 years in a row. There's going to be a lot of openings, like you mentioned, Jacksonville and certainly Chicago. There was some talk that Ben Johnson wanted to coach Caleb Williams. He may still get his chance, but does he want to stay in the division and be a part of that Bears team that, quite honestly, they're an absolute embarrassment. So I don't know. We'll see. I think, to answer your question, yes, if Ben Johnson were to leave, I think Mark Brunell, who you know very well, could be moved from a quarterback coach to OC. If Aaron Glenn were to get a head coaching job, and he deserves it, he's done a great job as defensive coordinator here this year. Maybe Kelvin Shepard, the linebackers coach, who everybody loves, maybe takes over as DC. So they've got some depth on the staff. They love the entire staff, everybody that's on it. Hank Fraley's as good an O-line coach as there is. They've got some really good assistants. So I think they've got a plan in place. But again, I think they're riding this wave right now, and their focus is, as Dan Campbell said the other day, these last 11 games. And everybody went, 11 games? You got 8 left. Oh, Dan's thinking, we got 8. We got to buy 9 and 10. And then the Super Bowl, which, of course, the Lions have never sniffed before. So we'll see what happens.
It's a good point. It's a good place to be, man. I'll tell you what, You ain't gonna have no speed bumps or roadblocks this week. I know we're gonna get to segment 3, but we're gonna talk about predictions. I can tell you right now, ain't no suspense. We can tease before the break. I'm gonna tell you right now, y'all gonna whoop us like we ain't been whooped before. That's what's gonna happen. But if y'all want to come on to the other side, I'll explain just how bad we're gonna get whooped with Matt.
Let's do it. Before we talk about this whooping that T-Wig is expecting on Sunday, what about Prize Picks? Best place to get real money sports action. Over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more than or less than on at least 2 to 6 player stat projections for your chance to win up to $100 times your cash. 100 times your cash, I should say. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. What's great about Prize Picks is it's the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy. So if you pick some players and your lineups don't stay intact, even if one of your players gets injured, if your player leaves in the first half, let's say if a game doesn't return, Prize Picks does keep your lineup live. They now offer Venmo for quick and easy deposits and withdrawals into your account this sports season. What about this weekend? Justin Jefferson with the Vikings. Will he have more than or less than 83.5 yards? You can bet on that. Lamar Jackson passes for more than 1.5 touchdowns in a game. You can put some money down on that. Download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Matt Derry, Locked on Lions. Tony Wiggins, Locked on Jaguars. T-Wig is a legend in this biz and with the network. Everybody loves him. So I mean, we can sit here and go keys to the game. We could get in trouble with Ross Jackson, our boss out here on the network, and just I want to hear about this ass whipping that you're expecting. They played, like you said, they got out gained last week, but they only lost by 5 to the Vikings, who are right there with the Lions. But you think that is not going to happen this week?
No, because Detroit makes you pay for everything. I mean, everything has currency attached to it. Every yard, even when you make the first down, you're going to get hit. Your chin buckle is going to buckle a little bit, your chin strap. They make you pay for everything. And that's probably why they end up winning that game last week against Houston, also putting them in bad down and distance situations. And also because they had to stop people. Dan Campbell said they got to stop people. They got to get turnovers. And then they got to catch up. Well, guess what? They were able to do that. You can't come from behind if you don't stop people. They make you pay for everything, and it was with their culture and their mentality. And the Jaguars are a team that will give you a whole bunch of stuff that they got to pay for. They're going to come to the cash register. You know, it says like only 10 items or fewer. Well, we're coming up with 40 different things that we're trying to pay for, right? And very little money to do it. They just make too many mistakes. I think when it's about man on man, you're going to see that they're physically not a bad football team. When it comes to Brian Thomas Jr., he'll get loose if they go deep to him and find him. He'll be able to play. Both running backs can play. You mentioned Travis Etienne. Tank Bigsby can also play. Joshua Hines-Allen is a very, very good football player. And Trayvon Walker, even though he's going to be matched up against Penei Sewell most of the time, I'm going to tell you what ain't going to happen. You ain't going to see him getting pancaked all day. And I'll put that on everybody, that's not what you're going to see. And y'all might be surprised at how good he is. The problem and the issue is they can't do what they want to do when they want to do it. The Jaguars don't run the ball well in the red zone, even when they're healthy with Trevor Lawrence. And you know as well as I do, when you get to the red zone, you need touchdowns. And you need to be able to give the ball to your running backs and convert and get first downs, or you need to be able to score when you're inside the red zone. They don't do it, so they can't. And when you can't run, that to me, that's the litmus test of a football team. Can you, for the most part, convert on 3rd and 1? The answer is no. Can you have 1st and goal on the 4 and go without completing a pass or attempting a pass and score a touchdown? The answer is no. That's all game. So if you can't do it all game, you ain't going to be able to do it late in the game either. That's why they lose so much, because those inches, that little bit just keeps them from being a good football team. And that's something that you can't manufacture, you can't scheme, and you can only fix it in the offseason, because you got to get bigger, stronger, and more physical. And it might take more than one offseason to do that. They haven't been able to accomplish that. You cannot beat a team like Detroit that is everything that you want to be, and you ain't none of that. And that's why I think they're going to lose, and I think it's going to be the most lopsided. It might not be score-wise, but it'll probably be the most lopsided game from a physical standpoint once it gets into the 3rd and 4th quarter.
Well, that's what I think for the Lions. I mean, getting back to it's not, this happened earlier in the year in week 2 when Goff threw the ball over 50 times. And the next week in Arizona, they just came out with David Montgomery and pounded the Cardinals to start that game. That's what kind of I anticipate this week. You mentioned Trayvon and some good pieces on that defense. I know the secondary has not been as good as they thought it would be down in Jacksonville, but I think one key is starting the game off with Montgomery and then going to Gibbs and just pounding that football. And, with Mac Jones, I think they've got to get some pressure on him. I know this is not the second coming of Brett Favre or anything like that, or Trevor Lawrence, or, even Mark Brunell in his day in Jacksonville. But with that being said, if he gets time to throw, he gets confidence. And I think the Lions with Darius Smith now, a healthy Josh Pascal who played last week, get some pressure on Mac Jones. That's when you can get him to turn the ball over, is when you got somebody in his grill. And it wouldn't surprise me to see Aaron Glenn, who didn't do a ton of blitzing against Stroud this past week, dial some things up. You're at home. You've won 7 in a row. You're expected to win this game. Why not kind of let it all out? And I think you might see that from the Lions this week.
I don't blame them. And the other part of this is, when we talk about culture, it's an overused word. But so I'll just put it like this: just watching this from afar, if I could take Aiden Hutchinson, Brian Branch, Penei Sewell, definitely Amon-Ra St. Brown, definitely him, and Ali McNeil, and I put them in front of an x-ray machine where you don't see the outside, you see the inside. There'd be a big old Great Dane or a Rottweiler right there, and it all looks alike.
They're football players.
They have that thing. And that thing is, you get it at every level with multiple players on one team, and then they're playing against a team that has maybe 2 guys that have that. And there may be more than that. I think Brian Thomas Jr. and ETN and Bigsby, they have it too, but it's unrecognized right now because it's not winning. See, it's winning there, and winning feeds that beast up in Detroit. I mean, that team is probably full of kneecaps with all the kneecaps they've been chewing the last 2 years, right? Well, the Jaguars are still looking and searching and trying to find an identity, and they're going to be playing against a team that has one, and that's why I don't think it's going to be much of a contest. Close early. I think by the end of the game, you're looking at a 2-score game.
I agree with you, Tony. I think it's going to be that kind of game. People are saying, "Oh, can this be a trap game?" The Lions just got done with 4 out of 5 on the road. Big road win at Green Bay. Big road win at Houston. They'll be let down. I don't think so. I think they know they did not play very well the other night and still escaped. So I think they're going to take it out on the Jags as well. Tony, great stuff, man. As always, appreciate it.
Always appreciate you, Matt. Good to see you. I see you cut that beard off, man. I cut mine off. My wife made me grow it back. We used to look just alike with that salt and pepper beard. Man. You cut your beard off, man. I'm thinking like, I still call you my brother, though. It's all good.
Hey, I love you too. I appreciate that. There he is, Tony Wiggins, Locked On Jaguars. Mac Derry, Locked On Lions. That's the Thursday crossover, brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. We'll talk to you tomorrow.